So thanks for joining us today. In front of me is Ralph Gilles, Chief of Design for Chrysler. We're at the Detroit Yacht Club celebrating the 100th anniversary of Chrysler, so very cool. You know, Ralph, to me, Chrysler design has always kind of seemed cutting edge, like just trying to get out ahead of everyone else. Is that kind of how you view it, or, what are key points for you?
Absolutely. We've kind of always been a bit of the underdog. There's always been the Cadillacs, let's be honest, that kind of take the center stage. But Chrysler being an upstart, even when it was founded 100 years ago to the day practically, it's been looking to not only innovate but also break the mold. The Airflow is one of those vehicles that we have it here today driving around. And in the 40s when we were experimenting, trying to see how beautiful we could make the car, we actually literally shipped frames to Italy, which at the time was making the most gorgeous metal. The Newport behind me is an example of that. The 1941, they're actually both 1941 Thunderbolt. These huge shapes, I mean things that you can only pen and couldn't imagine actually coming to. You have to remember in those days, cars still had loose fenders, they still had the typical look of the fuselage with the fenders. So Chrysler was innovating how to close that off, how to be more aerodynamic, sleeker, and actually more robust looking.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the airflow in 34. You look at it now and it looks almost like a vehicle from the 50s. Like,
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it must have looked like in the day,
Absolute failure in the marketplace, because it was maybe about 15 years ahead of its time. But that's the thing, right? Innovating, finding white space, we like to say in our industry, where it's an underserved customer, an underserved emotion, underserved need. And a lot of vehicles, the PT Cruiser was one of those vehicles. It had some of the airflow ideas in it, but that one was successful. We sold almost 2 million of those around the world over its lifespan.
Yeah, the airflow almost kind of reminds me of the Citroen DS,
Yeah.
just the way it kind of sticks out for the era that it came out in.
Your audience even knows what the
I
Citroen
think a
DS
few,
is.
I feel like a few of them do.
Another avant-garde company, which ironically happens to be part of the Stellantis group. So,
Well,
full circle.
my father has one as well, so in the garage. I feel like a few people in our audience will know. But, kind of moving down the line here, you were talking about the Kronos concept as being one of your favorite of the vehicles out here. Why is it so important to you?
Well, because I mean, these were, these three here were the Ghia cars, we call them, and there's a few others that came in partnerships with the Italians. But then, when I came to Chrysler a few years later, we were doing some pretty cool stuff. Tom Gale and his team, John Hurlitz, they were really pushing the envelope on how grand can we make the Chrysler brand. And the Atlantique here was a straight 8 engine car. I remember when this came out of the Detroit Motor Show, some very, very wealthy oil baron jumped on stage, grabbed the mic out of the product specialist and said, "I want to buy this car right here, right now." And we don't have to be escorted off by security, but it had that effect where it was so grand, so special, and it evokes, the Bentleys and the Delahaye's of the 40s. Right?
Oh, 100%.
But to me, that was maybe a little too old school. So when Osam Shikado, wonderful designer who left our company years ago, he worked on this car with a few other team members. He was using the spirit of the Ghia cars. If you look at the Ghia Speciale with the blue, with the center fuselage grille, and the headlamps are high positioned, and the very, very bold, kind of penetrating fender bulges, that's what's in this vehicle. So it has the Ghia type presence, kind of sub-covered headlights, a lot of character in this front end. But when we did the car, it was really a one-off thing, just an exercise to see it. But people really liked it. I personally loved it. I was a junior designer in studios back in '98. And a few years later, we got the assignment. I became director of the rear drive studio to do the 300, which at the time was replacing the 300M. So the idea would be just go sleeker, right? But then this car, we couldn't get this out of our minds. A few other designers, Mr. Hubbock, who passed away unfortunately a few years ago, he had a sketch that embodied this idea with the high shoulders, and that caught my eye. Now, he was just doing the advanced work, so we took it to production, and people tried to kill that sketch. I go, no, there's something in it. So we developed it and tried to prove that we can make this retro look as modern as possible. That's how the 300 came to be. But really, this is one that started it all, and really, in a way, established a new look for Chrysler well into the 2000s.
Yeah, I feel like you can really see the 300 in there, and I mean, obviously such an important vehicle for the company as well. So yeah, really resonated with people out in the real world. Kind of moving over, we see the Pacifica here. That's kind of new era kind of stuff. Even coming out with a 100th anniversary edition.
So it's 100th anniversary for the brand. Pacifica, we've been leaders in this segment for well over 40 years. Really, there was a microbus. People argue which will Kraken first, but that wasn't really a comfortable vehicle to drive. This was a car-like driving position. People love it to this day. They love the command of the road. In fact, most of the UVs that you know today have copied our seat height. It's a magic, perfect seat height to see ahead of you, to feel safe, but not be so high that you can't jump in it. But we have to remind people that minivans do more than just our minivans, right? So with the flat stow and go seats, you get in the PHEV, the plug-in hybrid, which has removable seats, and then the gas version has disappearing seats. And you can literally do it in about 30 seconds. If you're good at it, the record is at 13 seconds, which I hold.
Nice, nice.
So you can convert it into a pickup truck, into a place you can put an inflatable bed if you want to camp in it, or just boxes from IKEA, whatever you want. That's the beauty. It can do anything. And more than half of our owners that buy minivans don't have kids. They just love it for that reason. It's kind of the covered pickup truck. And then we added all-wheel drive a few years ago. And this particular version is the all-wheel drive version. And it's a very capable all-wheel drive. It's a 1 inch higher than the typical car and a very good aero. I drove one recently. The PHEV gets well over 32 miles per gallon just on its own without even the batteries. Very sleek vehicle, but we're showing with the Thule rack. So we renamed it Family Activity Vehicle. That's what FAV means. Because, you know, the minivan thing is a bit of this heavy term that people like, I gotta drive a minivan. But what do people rent when they go to Orlando to Disneyland?
A minivan, right?
Minivan. Why? Because they can stuff, you know, 7 to 8 people in there and all their stuff. Nothing like it.
Yeah, you know, you've got a 3rd-gen minivan sitting out here for us to drive today, and truth be told, that's what I learned to drive on. So I can't wait to go get in that and just kind of go down nostalgia lane a little bit.
I've had 11 in my time, and the last one I had, I modified heavily. I put 22-inch rims on it.
Nice.
Murdered it out, did the man van thing, and it was fun to drive. I was able to keep up with just about anything on off-ramps.
Cool, cool. Well, why don't we move along? You know, take a little bit of a look at the future for the brand. This is the Halcyon concept.
Came out in the spring of 23. We showed it at the Amelia show. We just kind of dropped it there and didn't say much, just to see the reaction of people. And what we're doing here is experimenting with the next look of, you know, how can we take electrification, make it beautiful?
Mm-hmm.
We don't want a car to look outwardly electric. You know, cars don't have to be weird to be electrified. We're also taking advantage. We have a platform today called Cellular that is multi-energy, but it can be converted to only BEV if we wanted to. So we're taking advantage. If we got rid of the ICE forever, this is what we would do. We would extend the passenger cabin again, more of that monospace, the lessons learned from the minivan. But this is a different type of stow and go. The seats actually stack on each other instead of disappearing, which gives open space. You can put your giant dog in there if you want to, your groceries, boxes. So it's again blending that almost supercar-like presence with everyday functionality. And on the inside, it's all about Zen. If you look at the interior design, we'll open the doors for you later. It's detoxing the interior. Less is more, getting rid of all the buttons and switches and all the stuff. And if the tech is there if you want it to be. And there's some B-roll we can give you of the video, and the screen disappears, folds away. The seats pull back when it's on the freeway on auto drive mode, and you can watch a movie on the windshield. So it's all these ideas. You know, tech is, some of it's already here, some of it's coming. So this is a cauldron of all those ideas in one vehicle.
So just a relaxing place to be if you want to go autonomously, or when you want to drive, it's there for you too.
Exactly, and it's a great driver's car as well. The steering wheel disappears in the dash, or at least tucks away, and it can come out and be used if you want to take over and enjoy the car.
And you know, you talked a little bit earlier about Chrysler wanting to fill kind of white spaces or new spaces. You know, to me, affordable luxury sedan could kind of be one of those exactly.
It's kind of been our shtick for many, many years, and that's something we don't forget that about ourselves. Another fun fact, you know, this car is designed in Detroit, so we actually, inside the vehicle, we use crushed CDs, all Motown CDs. We actually repurpose them to make all the wing badges. Another fun fact, this happens to be hiding in plain sight, but this is the new Chrysler wing badge that you'll see on more and more vehicles into the future. It's an abstracted version of the wing badge, which we tend to kind of redo every 5 to 6 years. And this one is very abstract on purpose, so we want people to kind of lean into it and discover it all over again.
So cool. No, I appreciate your time, just kind of going through a little of the bit of the very past, more recent past, present, and future. So thanks for your time, Ralph.
My pleasure.